Have you got a minute? I want to talk to you about something that's very important. My name is Jack Boone. I'm a writer. I lecture frequently around in different clubs and organizations, and invariably people come up to me and say, I'd like to write a book. I don't know where to start. Well, my answer is very simple. Start with writing your own story. You have all of the information in your head, and it's easy to put it down year by year as you can remember it, and make a complete story out of it, not for publication necessarily, but for your children and grandchildren and the great-grandchildren that'll never know you. This is a very important thing to do. It's not a memoir as such, because where you recite all the good things that you did in your life, include all the warts. Tell everything that happened to you over the years as you came along, and lay it out on the table for them to be able to read it and remember that this was their grandfather or grandmother. If you can do it in legible longhand, it's even better. But if you can't, have someone type it for you, and you'll be surprised at how well received it will be later on, when you're long gone and you can't answer their questions directly. My mother did one for me on her life and my father. They were married 55 years. They covered it pretty well, and I look back on it occasionally with a great deal of nostalgia, because I remember when a lot of the incidents happened. I remember the Great Depression. I remember the post-Depression era, which was really World War II. I was involved in World War II, as was my brother, and my mother had two sons in combat at the same time. I can imagine the agony that she and my father went through, worrying day by day if today was the day they were going to lose a son or lose two sons. Whatever the case, I remember that after the war, the post-war years, when I got married, 1946, when I got married, and I remember everything that happened from that day forward to the present day, when my wife and I are now celebrating our 63rd wedding anniversary. Those are the things that are important to future generations. They wouldn't be important to the general public so much, unless there was something really exotic about it. But that's the main thing, is to just write it down for their consumption later on. I think it would be a great thing to do. Well, I spoke to a Kiwanis club not too long ago on another matter, one of my books, and I had spoken to them previously about this same thing, writing their own story. At the conclusion of the question and answer period of the last speech, I asked if any of them remembered me making a speech to them a few months earlier about writing their own story, and many of them raised their hand. Then I asked, how many of you have actually done it or started it? Only about 10 or 12. Well, you see, that's what the problem is with this. People that say they want to do it, they say they're going to do it, but they never seem to get around to do it. It's very simple. Get a pad and paper. I've got a little binder, a little notebook, you know, with a binder and what do you call it, spiral bind, and just sit down and start making notes about things that happen to you throughout your life that you can expound on a little later on, and go back and enlarge on it. If you can remember the details, you know, it gets, as you get older, it's more difficult to remember the details. So that's something that you really should do, particularly if you're in the 40 and 50 year range, and if you're 60 year range, you better get hopping, because pretty soon you won't be able to do it. that's what I wanted to tell you. By the way, if you would like to see some of my work, uh, you can find it at the www.jackwboone.com. That's my webpage, www.jackwboone.com. Bring it up and take a look at it, and there you can read excerpts from most of my books. Many of the short stories are not, you can't find in there other than just the titles. But I write a lot of short stories. I write short stories between novels many times, and I write articles also between novels. And I write some questionable things that people, some like, some don't like. But whatever it is, it's things that I think are quite amusing in some instances and informative in others. So some of the things are a little controversial, and I think that that's the way it should be. So look it up. But the main thing is, I wanted to emphasize again, write your own story. Write it down. Put it on paper. Stick it away somewhere. Give it to your eldest child and say, here, hold on to this, and pass it on down the line. Believe me, you will have handed them a treasure. Thank you very much.